Press. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause for Jilliana?
Hello everybody, it's good to be back. I've just spent 24 days in America, quite stressful.
Nice.
Well, New York was stressful. I was invited to go to a place called Lowell, Massachusetts, near Boston. And the reason being, it was where Jack Kerouac lived, the beat poet and writer from the 1960s. And Lowell, in fact I found out Charles Dickens had been there.
No way.
Yeah, in 1800 and whenever. Yeah, it was in the museum. That was surprising. Anyhow, Lowell, kind of sleepy little place, but anyway, famous because of Jack Kerouac. So obviously they're capitalizing, and every year they've got a park with all his sort of on marble various words and poems and so on. They've done it very nicely. The only trouble is hobos stay in the park, so that's not so nice. But anyhow, every year they do a festival, and it's called Lowell Celebrates Kerouac. And you're going to jam with me. And I had the experience. The only living friend of Kerouac is 88, and he's a well-known virtuoso called David Amram. I'd never heard of him, but he's classical and jazz. And there was a session with him jamming, and I jammed with him, and I've never jammed before. So tonight I'm asking Roger to accompany me. So we'll do an experiment. Okay, this has got absolutely nothing to do with Kerouac. It's part of a series I do, which is called Mad Collectors, and this is number 2. And I met an awful lot of collectors because I was in the antique collectibles business for about 30 years. So I met a lot of collectors and a lot of dealers. And so if anyone wants to go to my website, which is jilliana.com, you'll see all the other ones. Okay, so Mad Collectors number 2. Richard Lucas was a Fagin-esque character who was a colleague, never a friend, back in the late 70s, early 80s, when we were both members exhibiting ephemera at the Ephemera Society fairs at the Bonington Hotel in London. Richard also exhibited at the Bloomsbury Hotel monthly fairs on Saturday and Sunday, and asked me to sell his books on Monday, when I could put out my ephemera, because he taught immigrants English that day at an adult educational college. Richard had an English language and literature degree from Oxford. How he hated his job, wasting precious time teaching when he could have been reading or buying more books. His dream was to be, like me, a full-time bookseller. We collaborated for several years, but despite his meanness and difficult way of doing business without prices in his books or a price code, over time I got to know and understand this solitary, unpleasant man. He lived in Swiss Cottage in what could have been a lovely flat, with a large bay window which housed a grand piano on the second floor of an Edwardian detached house. As you climbed the stairs to Richard's lair, you saw a bank of books piled sky high up to half the level of the wall on the right from the first floor. Behind the books, he confessed the wall was cracked from their weight and didn't dare tell his landlady. Once inside this literary sanctuary, you entered a hall with bookshelves on the right-hand side, running from the front door as far as the kitchen. The shelves were groaning with books, and in front of the shelves were piles of books running the length of the corridor. Opposite the countless collection of books on the floor, along the left wall, were more stacks of books. The living room, dare I say for relaxing in, had books behind the faded, lumpy two-seater sofa, which was the only place to sit down and get warm in front of the gas fire, hiding in a beautifully tiled Victorian fireplace. To the right of this sofa area was a large bay window with beautiful views of trees and hedges. A perfect place for music salons. Richard would struggle to get to his beloved grand piano to play a piano concerto when he was in the right mood. The piano stool was the only other seat in the music room. You have to picture this. His wife had left him long ago because of his compulsive disorder for books. He almost got another one to replace her, but then found she was allergic to dust. As for the bedroom, there was no room to swing a cat if he had one because of the multitude of books by the bedside. The same with the toilet. Impossible to close the door and have a shit. The kitchen was large with a pine table in the centre, but unfortunately you couldn't move it because the books were stacked beneath it. Not much room to eat either because the portable Hermes typewriter and mail order correspondence on the table. He would have to push his papers to one side to make room for a plate of food. But did Richard ever sell his books? Because he had no prices or price codes inside the front page written in pencil. He was an impossible man to deal with. He bought all his books at country auctions cheaply in job lots, removed the best and placed them on the bookshelves in the hall. A normal bookseller would have knocked out the dross to make a quick profit for the good ones. Not Richard. He had kept all the dead stock in his flat, hence the piles and piles of unsaleable books. I was a specialist juvenilia book and dealer at the time between London and Paris. I would buy Kate Greenaway, Walter Crane and Dulac children's books and sell them to book dealers in Paris. There I would scour the 6th district bookshops for ephemera, prints on my various themes and German mechanical books known as Meggendorfer pop-up books. These would fetch very high sums in London or New York. Sometimes Richard would have a book for me, but never a price. He would taunt me while he made up a price according to his mood. Needless to say, we never did business. I was a full-time dealer, and no doubt he was jealous of my freedom. Then his world collapsed in 1993. Richard was a name at Lloyd's. His brother was a successful stockbroker and would advise Richard, who had some money he had inherited from his father. His mother was still alive and he would visit her in Dorset from time to time to be served hot dinners and mummified, even though he was in his 60s by then. I recall I invited him once for dinner and he managed to bring a cheap bottle of red. However, he got on well with my friendly, open-minded husband Martin, who was a collector of modern first editions and later on became a full-time book dealer after publishing a price guide called Breeze's Guide to Modern First Editions. But in 1993, poor Richard grew desperate, twisted and evil. I never knew that until he accidentally had a snowball effect on my private life a few years later. That's it. And if anybody wants part 2, it'll be on my website, and it's called, I can't remember what it's called now. He became a burglar. So no, I'm serious.
And he was
serious.
A lot of us do.
And he spent, I think, 10 years in prison in the end.
Oh.
But you'll have to go to the website. It's spelled Jilliana,
Excellent.
and that's part 2. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Jilliana.
Thank you.
Next up,